past 3. So welcome everyone and good afternoon again. Welcome to Decoding the Labor Codes 2.0, our second knowledge session series of the series that we have. We have two of our internal experts who are going to be talking about the labor codes. And it gives me immense pleasure. And I'm very excited about this knowledge session that we are conducting. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. The camera, Mr. Rajiv Kapoor has just put his camera on. He takes care of our central operations. He has an MBA in HR and has over 28 years of experience in compliance, payroll, and also has been a subject matter expert for many years. He has managerial experience for more than 18 years, and he's been in and around the domain and sort of a veteran in the domain of compliance and payroll. We also have Mahesh Kumar with us. Mahesh, if you could put your video on. Yeah, thank you. Mahesh is also a postgraduate in human resource management with over 15 years of experience in compliance payroll, and he's our in-house SME and takes care of a lot of functioning of the central operations for TeamLease compliance. And my name is Rishi Wadhwani. I'm a part of the marketing team. And over to you,
Rishi. Sorry to pause you.
Yeah.
Someone is mentioned in the chat box that they are not able to. Sir, your voice is not clear.
Okay, I guess in any case,
am I audible to the entire phone?
Yes, you're very much audible, Mahesh. And I guess since I'm anyways done talking, I'll let Rajiv take over.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Rishi. So good afternoon, everybody. Maybe I will start with the highlights, maybe latest information. On 21st of March, the State Labor and Employment Minister in the Rajya Sabha, he has showcased the basically progress which has been started from Feb 2021 and then up till 21st March 2022. So we believe since now parliamentary standing committee meetings have been started, and it's going to be held from today up till end of the April. So we are hoping this particular, since he has started discussion in terms of progress, which have been done so far. So they are going to discuss on they are going to give some concrete decision on the implementation of labor code. So that's the reason we feel this is again the right time to restart the webinars in terms of understanding, in terms of preparation. So this time we are going to touch upon the code on wages, and Mr. Mahesh, who is our subject matter expert in the labor laws, he is going to take over the session. So not taking much time, Mahesh, over to you for the session.
Thanks, Rishi, for your brief introduction. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mahesh here from SME team, subject matter expert from TeamLease. So I'll share my screen. Hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, Mahesh, it is. And you're audible.
Yeah, once again, good afternoon to everyone. See, today we are gathered here today to discuss in detail on code on wages, majorly on the code on wages part, which has the financial implication to the employer. So that's when we have picked up this code on wages as a priority in this webinar. So before I'm going to start the code on wages, I would like to give a brief the introduction about the labor codes, how the labor codes have been started. So I have a landscape in the coming slide landscape. Now, how there are 29 legacy labor acts are there. Currently, we have 29 legacy labor acts, and there are 1232 sections. Now, how this has been subsumed, which now the introduction of this new 4 labor codes. So all these acts have been subsumed here under the labor codes, and where it is going to be a 4 codes in future. Now, though it is yet to be implemented, but introduced these 4 codes, and it is going to have only 480 sections. So that's the landscape where you could identify here how significantly this has come down from 1232 section to 480 sections. This is the small introduction about the landscaping. Move on to the next, like this slide speaks about the code on wages when it was introduced, when the bill was passed, and related to all these four codes: occupational safety, health, and working condition 2020. There are 13 acts have been subsumed here, and under the code on wages there are 4 acts, and again the code on industrial relation 2020, which is 3 acts have been subsumed, and code on social security 9 acts, which I'm going to show you. As you all are aware, this is yet to be implemented, but otherwise this have come into the, this all acts have framed, number of states have already framed the draft rules, so which are yet to be enforced. So what is the reason? What is the reason behind coming up with the codes? Why there is a thought which has come, like why we should have a code? As you know, our the labor laws are very cumbersome in terms of understanding the wage definition, or understanding the procedural part. These are all currently we have the more of the cumbersome or very complex in terms of handling the compliances. That is when the government has taken the initiative, where they wanted to make ease of compliances, where we have to attract other country people and compare with the other country, where we need to have our compliance, ease of compliance, doing ease of business in India. That was the one of the major reason why they wanted to come up with this labor codes, where this will give you the more simplified in terms of handling the compliances, either to the department or to the employer. So that is the state, that is what I have mentioned. Maybe if you could see the multiplicity of definition, so that they have now combined it instead of having multiple definition. So they have made it one definition, which will help the employer or establishment to have a better clarity. So that is one of the major reason to introduction of this codes. So move on to the this slide, as I mentioned in my previous slide, these all how many acts. Now, code on occupational health and safety, there are 13 acts which have been subsumed here. So those 13 acts I have listed here. And coming to code on social security, there are 9 acts which are again the major one of the important code, even social security, which is employees compensation, state employee state insurance, employees provident fund. So all these 9 acts have been subsumed under the code on social security. Coming to code on industrial relationship, 3 acts, which is trade union, industrial employment standing order, and industrial dispute. Similar now code on wages, 4 acts, which we are going to look into it in detail. What all the major the changes when you compare with the existing to the code on wages, what all changes are going to be, that we are going to look into it in the subsequent slides. There are 4 acts which have stated: Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages, Payment of Bonus, and Equal Remuneration. These 4 acts have been subsumed under the code on wages. Going forward, this is not going to be called as acts, it's going to be a chapters. These all are going to be a chapters, and we have to call it as codes. Move on to the code on wages. So applicability part. So what I would like to emphasize, I'll complete the session. I think probably we will go for a question and answer at the end. For a maybe where I can also give you or clarify to you in a brief manner, instead of maybe pausing in every slide. I'll complete the all the slides. Probably at the end we can proceed for the question and answers. Now coming to applicability, which I have stated, code on wages applicability. So there are 4 acts. These all 4 acts were having a different set of the applicability for establishment and different set of applicability for employees. If you could refer this table where I have precisely mentioned, minimum wages was applicable only to the scheduled employment. This is the current existing practice. Only for establishments which are notified under the minimum wages only going to be applicable, wherein after the code implementation, it is going to be applicable for all the establishment. So that is one of the major change which we have seen in the code on wages. Similarly, payment of wages. Payment of wages, even for the payment of wages, which is applicable only for the certain establishment, wherein it is going to be applicable for all the establishments once the code on wages is introduced. Similarly, the payment of bonus. Payment of bonus, as of now, there is no change. 20 or more employees, which they have stated, even in the code on wages. However, they have given the empowerment to the each specific state to amend the number. Maybe they can go even beyond the 20, or the, as you know, the wage ceiling bonus definition or wage ceiling is 21,000. So they have given the empowerment to the state government where they can even go more than 21,000. So this is one thing which we have to wait till the draft rules have already come. However, the quantum has already not been defined. Maybe the quantum differs now state to state. So this is one more important point everyone have, maybe be very cautious how the bonus has to be paid. Maybe in future we have to pay based on the state specific. Equal remuneration to all establishment listed as per the section. Here section 1.3 says certain establishments are fall under the equal remuneration. Now that has been lifted and it's going to be applicable for all the states. So this is how the applicability for the establishment. Similarly, I have also bifurcated how it is going to be applicable for employees. What all changes have happened to the employees. Now, this is going to be applicable for all employees. Since it is going to be applicable for all establishment, obviously, even this is going to be applicable for all employees. This is one change in terms of minimum wages. And coming to payment of wages, where there is a ceiling was being fixed like 24,000. Beyond 24,000, if any employee or workman who's getting a salary who's not going to be a part of payment of wages, now there won't be any as such in the code on wages. It is very clearly removed that it's going to be applicable for all. So employees drawing less than 21,000 payment of bonus. So this is, as I mentioned, the state has to take they have the empowerment. They can even make it beyond 21. They can even make it 30,000, which will cover number of employees under the bracket of the bonus. There could be the number of employees are going to increase. So it is the state has the empowerment, so they can even go up to 30 or the whatever the number. So that empowerment has been given. So we can expect there could be more number of employees in the bracket of payment of bonus act. So these are all the applicability part which I have briefed. So coming to wage, as I mentioned, wage, we had a multiplicity definition under the payment of wages, payment of minimum wages, or payment of bonus act. Now what happened is they have redefined and they have simplified the wage definition. Here I would like to highlight one important point which is related to the quantum in your gross remuneration. What is the exclusion portion which you should have, which has been defined in the wage definition. Here it says excluded components cannot go. It cannot go more than 50% of the remuneration. The remuneration which has been paid to an employee, the exclusion portion cannot go more than 50%, which means the wage you should have 50%. Wage is nothing but the basic DA and retaining allowance, which I'm going to show you. So what is very important to note the entire forum is the wage cannot be less than 50%. Looking at the definition, the wage has to be 50% of your gross remuneration. So here I have bifurcated what is substantive, inclusive, and does not exclude. So exclude, now substantive here all remuneration by way of salaries or allowance otherwise expressed in terms of the money. But here inclusive part, basic DA, retaining allowance, or if any kind of allowance is being paid. But at the same time, there is an exclusion portion also which has been given. Any bonus payable or house accommodation, it's very clearly specified that will be excluded from the definition of the wages. Any contribution paid by the employer to any pension, so this is also going to be excluded. So there are the certain allowances which has been stated here. So these are all going to be get excluded, but otherwise 50% minimum going to be your wage. So that is very important. That is when your quantum in terms of PF, ESIC, everything is going to increase. I have a next slide. This is again a brief about the wage. I'll just skip this because this is a just definition of it. I have given a sample salary structure illustration here. So which will make you very easy to understand how my salary structure should be once the code on the wages being implemented. Now the basic DA, it is 8,000, HRA, conveyance allowance and washing allowance is another, which is 10,000. Put together 18,000 gross, which we are paying to an employee. Now clarification, once the code on wages is implemented, what we should have exactly? What do you mean by wage? So here the wage should be 9,000, wherein here in the salary components we have 8,000. Otherwise, once we need to have 9,000 as per the code definition, it's very clearly specified that we need to have a wage as 9,000. So that is when I have changed here. Okay, basic care plus DA, it is 8,000. Otherwise, it has to be there 9,000. The wage shall minimum of 9,000. So this is the small illustration which I have put it across here to for ease of understanding. Impact on wages. The moment the wage has become 50% of your gross remuneration, what all major financial impacts to the employer? One is employer's liability towards PF, ESIC, bonus, and gratuity may vary. It's going to vary. Definitely, it is going to vary because PF, anyways, the PF department still they are silent on the ceiling. Ceiling as of now it is 15,000. As we all are aware, it is 15,000. So as of now there is the department is silent in case if they are going to lift the ceiling part. What would be the wage? Then we have to pay on 50% of the gross remuneration. The PF has to be deducted on 50% of the gross remuneration, which is the minimum. So then the quantum of the contribution towards employee and employer is going to increase. Coming to ESIC, again ESIC, like we are contributing on gross salary. So since the wage is going to become 50%, the contribution towards ESIC may come down. Similarly, bonus again, bonus once the ceiling is increased and quantum of the wage is 50%, even bonus will also go, like the quantum could go up, gratuity quantum also go, which I have bifurcated one by one. The 50% of wages shall be considered for PF contribution, awaiting for the ceiling wages, as I mentioned. So similarly, this quantum is going to go up. The major quantum for the employer implication, one is going to be a PF, other one is going to be a gratuity. Maternity, again, maternity we are paying on the total gross remuneration, but since they have bifurcated here, the exclusion portion can be go up to 50%, and remaining 50% is a wage. So we may have to consider 50% to pay the maternity. Here the quantum will come down. The quantum in terms of ESIC and maternity benefit will come down, but otherwise PF, gratuity, bonus will go. So this is one of the major implication in the wage definition we mentioned in the code on wages. Payment of wages. Under the payment of wages, what all changes have been taken place, which I am going to touch upon here. Here, as I mentioned, 24,000 was the ceiling. Now that's not going to be there in the code on wages. And the procedural part, now we used to have any kind of the returns filing or the procedural part, we were stick to 24,000, but going forward it is going to be applicable for all the people though. So obviously the procedural part is going to increase. So this we have to be ready for it. And coming to another, the section 17.1 says daily. In case if person engaged on daily, you have to pay when to pay the payment to him, an employee or workman, which you have to pay end of the day for the person who has been engaged for a daily wages. For weekly, last working of week. Similarly, now fortnightly, within 2 days after the end of the period, within 2 days we have to pay. Here, one more change, the major change, which we need to make a note of it is monthly. Monthly, we have, currently the existing is we have up to 1,000 employees. We have to make the payment within the 7th of the subsequent month or the following month. Beyond 1,000, it is on 10th. We have to make the payment on or before 10th. Now the 10th has been eliminated here. So all the salary has to be paid on or before 7th of following month. This is one more the major change. And settlement, this is also one of the important which I wanted to emphasize on this particular point, full and final settlement. So there is no guidelines or set of rules in the existing act when to pay this full and final settlement, wherein here in the code on wages very clear, this has to be paid within 2 working days. Within 2 working days, the separation, when person today is my last working day, within 2 days the settlement, full and final settlement has to be happened. So now it is very important every employer to have the setup process, how to make sure whatever the assets part or anything which we have to recover from employee. So the employer has to have a set of new process for this. So this point is very important. That's the reason I'm emphasizing more on this particular piece.
Mahesh, even this point, specific point, we are coming across wherein clients are asking for, so how, because in most of client places, normally it is not possible to make the payout of full and final in 2 days because of practical aspects wherein employee has to pay back some advances or some assets are lying with them. Employee has not given back those assets. Even cost of assets is more than the full and final amount. All those cases are there. I think therein this point required some discussion. So, what kind of procedural procedure employer has to take up, like so that if authority is raising question on this non-compliance, if say they are unable to pay the amount in 2 days because of all these reasons, then what procedure you feel has to be in place, maybe for the discussion purpose later on,
Yes,
that
yes.
can be
I
validated
got
and
your
that can be
point.
clear.
I got your point. Yes, it is a procedural part. With our experience, what I would like to emphasize here is, yes, it, settling within 2 days, it's going to be a major concern for employer, because we have handed over the laptop to him, or certain advance has been given to employee, or there could be some issue with an employee. How do we recover that in 2 days? So what is our suggestion? Like with our experience, what we would say is, during the notice period, make sure that you are going to intimate to employee, we have to finalize your full and final within 2 days, and that is the act precisely says. So whatever the assets to be handed over to him, let us collect it and put some procedural part over there, or the anything advance which has to be paid, we have to request employee, and we have to document. The important thing is we have to document with employee. It's not only with the oral, because what will happen when, if 2 days, maybe after 2 days, if I have not done the full and final settlement, it's going to be a non-compliance for me. So that's the reason it is good to document with employee, depicting that yes, we have to highlight that we have to clear your dues within 2 working days, and you have to hand over your assets on so and so day. Today it's going to be so and so day. It's going to be your last working. So all these things we have to clearly specify, and we have to keep documenting it with employee, either through email, or maybe in case employees uh, even we suggest, if required, we can even send the hard copies, but as of currently hard copy is very difficult, but in the soft mode we have to document it. So tomorrow if authority comes and raise the query that why it is not paid within 2 days, so we should have certain proofs to substantiate that the delay is not intentional from our side. Otherwise we have documented this is where there is a gap. Otherwise from employer end there is no as such gap. So this is very important for
Yeah,
every
Mahesh,
employer to document it.
yeah, even Mahesh, that is, I think, some procedure has to be adopted by each company, as you rightly said. And further, though again, authority can come up with notice, maybe based on complaint of the employee or maybe because of other reason. So, but if employee is having certain documents in place wherein employer is having some document in place wherein employer is in position to justify that why they have holded the payment, full and final payment, then that can become the point of merit if case is further going in the court, or maybe so that will be the point of merit in that case.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's a very valid point. So I'll move on to the next slide. But again, payment of wages continues. So certain the clause which sections which I have touched upon here. One is the deduction part. Deduction cannot go more than 50% of your gross remuneration under section 18.3. Even today also it's in today's existing act also specifies the same. And recovery of advance, again it cannot be more than 50%. But here the third one, section 21, what I would like to highlight here, this point is not there in the existing labor laws. Deduction or a damage or loss shall be done only with the specific procedures, and also we have to give an opportunity to an employee. This was not there earlier. Now we have to give an opportunity. It's not that just like that we cannot deduct the deduction or a damage loss. Any damage or loss happen to the company, we cannot deduct without the knowledge of employee. We should give an opportunity to employee. We should understand from him whether the the damage or loss happened, whether it is intentional or it is unknowingly, like maybe without his knowledge something has happened. So all these things we have to discuss with him, and we have to document it, and only then we can go for the deduction. So this point is very uh, like given in the precisely they have updated. So this point is also very important for us to document it before going for any kind of deduction in terms of damages and loss. So unpaid accumulation. Existing law says each state has a different. A few states are having 1 year, or few states are having 3 years, or that where you can hold your unpaid accumulation. But however, now the unpaid accumulation cannot, like you cannot withhold with for more than 6 months. So beyond 6 months, within 15 days of time, we have to settle to the board. So that is the one more new clause which has been introduced. Within 15 days, we have to submit to the labor welfare board, and this has to be happened through the bank transfer or DD. There's only two mode of payment: deposit through bank, otherwise it has to be through DD. And further, what will happen to that amount? So it will be there with the government for like board with the 7 years. Post that after 7 years, what needs to be done? There's no clarity given, but otherwise they said that the central government is going to take a decision what needs to be done on that. This is one more clause which is under the payment of wages chapter has been introduced. So bonus applicability, yes, we need to wait for the clarity from the state, specific state, what they wanted to, whether they have to change the applicability to cover the more number of employees instead of having 20. So there's an empowerment has given which you can even make it to 10. So we'll have to wait each state what they are going to specify. Similarly, on the wage, the current ceiling, it is 21,000, where the 21,000 they may increase to even 30, as I mentioned, to cover the more number of employees, to bring the more number of employees under the ambit of the bonus act. So this bonus especially we'll have to wait for the state rules. Mode of payment, now they made it very clear the mode of payment cannot be either cash or by check or DD. It has to be happened only through bank credit. The bonus has to be paid through bank credit. Another section which they have introduced, section 29D, which is conviction for sexual harassment. If employee, like in case of conviction in related to the POSH, the employee will be deprived from the or forfeited from the benefit of bonus. So this clause has also been introduced. So the employee can be forfeited from the bonus payables in case conviction for sexual harassment. Equal remuneration, all these existing act says that there are only two genders, men and women. Now they have introduced transgender also under the ambit of equal remuneration. So it's going to be covered for, we have to treat all three genders as the equal opportunity we should provide, and equal remuneration has to be paid for all these three genders. So the inclusion is here, the transgender. So I am done with the slides which I have majorly covered the points, like the changes, major changes which is taking place from the existing act to when the code is going to get implemented. So now the forum can, like the session now we can move on to the question and answer now.
Sure, Mahesh. So we do have a lot of queries that have come in. I will read out everyone, and then you can decide how you want to sort of go ahead and answer.
Yeah, there's a chat, right? You want me to read out? Can I start from the beginning?
Yeah, sure. Please start from beginning. I think Sheetal Sawant has the first query. No, before that, okay, we can start from
expected date of implementation. Someone has me at 3/7. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Mahesh, go ahead with that.
Yeah. So there is a query raised, expected date of implementation, when it is expected. Before the announcement of budget, there was a news which they have floated that the codes will be implemented in a deferred way. Maybe it's not, they are not going to implement all 4 codes. So that was the news. And post that, now 21st March, they have stated that they are in the discussion. There's a panel discussion which is happening. Probably we can expect maybe some news at the earliest, but they are not going to implement it with the immediate effect. Probably they could give some timeline, at least 2 to 3 months for employer to adopt themselves into this code changes. So probably there could be 2 to 3 months of time. So, but otherwise we are expecting it's going to happen in this year.
Mahesh,
Yeah,
if you could stop sharing your screen. Yeah.
Yeah, Mahesh, actually, even if we see the present picture of the how many states have drafted the rules. So now from October onward, the numbers have been increased. Now even 18 states have drafted all the codes rules. So this indicates that there is a pressure on the states, and further now, as you said, on 21st, there is a note from the Labor Employment Minister, wherein they have discussed about what was the progress from Feb 21 to till now. And I think they are going to declare something in next 1 month, I believe. So maybe before in the month of April. Yes, we feel that they will give some time, maybe 1 month time, 2 month time, or 2 or 3 months time to implement those from the employer side.
Thanks.
Next query,
For the
please.
clarification. There is a query, expected implementation. Hi, kindly let us know if the presentation will be shared, else we'll have to take notes.
So I have replied to that just again for everyone's awareness. We will be sharing the presentation with everyone, all those who participated. A document with respect to this
Your
discussion.
voice is going very low, Rishi. Sometimes.
Okay. So
what I'll do? Okay, you can respond to this query.
Yeah, I'm saying we will be sharing the document which we've discussed today as a part of the knowledge session. We will be sharing this with everyone who's participated.
There's one more question from Sheetal Sawant. And is this applicable to only employee earning wage up to 24K per month? Maybe the question is not much clear on which, see the code on wages, it's applicable to every employee. This 24K, which I have specified in terms of payment of wages, the Payment of Wages Act itself is going to be applicable who's drawing 24 and less. Anything beyond 24,000, they are not going to come under the ambit of payment of wages, but that is not going to be the case when in the code on wages. So all are going to be, all employees are going to come under the ambit of payment of wages. So that is when I have given the clarification. Hope maybe you got the clarity on this. So one more is FNF in 2 days is applicable for termination or for usual resignation, or if we have a monthly payroll, should we perform supplemental payroll every time to meet this requirement? See, this is applicable for all resignation, termination, everything is applicable. When employee today, as I mentioned, if it is today is my last working day, the FNF has to be settled within 2 days of my last working day. So it's very clear, either it is termination, resignation, or when kind of any layoff or retrenchment. Ultimately, there is a reason for employee leaving the organization, but full and final has to be happened within 2 days. In the wage definition for calculation social security, it is 50% of total gross or 50% of gross salary minus HRA or other exempted allowances. The wage definition is very clear. Wage definition, it says the wage should be minimum of 50%, and HRA has been excluded. That comes under the exclusion portion. As I have illustrated in my salary structure, any component which can be excluded, kind of excluded portion which they have stated. So those exclusion portion can go up to 50%, but not beyond that. But otherwise, wage has to be 50%, and we have to deduct PF on 50%. If there's a better clarity on ceiling, as of now, there is a ceiling, a capping we have under PF, so we can contributing beyond 15,000, which the department has to clarify whether they are going to lift the ceiling part.
Mahesh, I request you to maybe you can again showcase that particular slide which provides the basically what are the exclusion, what are the inclusion.
If I'm going to place that, I'll not be able to read the chart. Actually, I can place it.
You go ahead. I'll read it for you, Mahesh. Why don't you go ahead and share the presentation?
Yeah,
because
this is the exclusion
because
portion.
it's a very important point. Everybody has to understand it actually.
Yes. So exclusion portion they have stated here. If I go to conveyance, washing allowance, HRA. Why I have taken these three allowances? We need to each allowance is having a specific reason. HRA being paid for the house rent allowance, conveyance where employee has to commute for the office purpose, and washing allowance where we have maybe extended uniform or for the washing. So we, whatever the component we name it, the component should have a substantial proof. We cannot name it as just like special allowance or other allowance which will not have any specific reason. So those components is going to be a form part of wages. We cannot call it, or what normally it does by the employer is they'll arrive at the basic DA HRA, and the remaining whatever is going to be that residual they're going to consider as a special allowance. But otherwise you do not have a specific reason for special allowance, so that those allowances are going to be part of basic wages. So we have to, it's going to be a wage, it's going to be a wage. So we have to be very cautious about when you're having a component. Each component should have the specific reason, policy, everything. That is when you can exclude from the wage definition. Rishi, can you move on to the next question? Or else what I'll do, I'll move on maybe from here where yeah, I could able to see the questions.
Okay. No, because you want presenting your screen, but that's okay. Just go ahead.
No, I'll move on again. I'll jump to the slide like this. I'll just so where I was actually 2 days, 50%. This is not practically possible, and authority should think thrice on it. I mean 2 days bar. This will further lead to non-compliance, and then there will be to or fro among employee, employer, and authorities. I think there might be some representation from the corporates on it. Any idea about it? Representation part, yes, as of now we did not hear any representation part. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, there could be a problem and where it's going to lead to a non-compliance. But as of now, until unless we are going to get a better clarity, or when we go and take a kind of stay on this particular section, so it is better to have a the procedure, like the different set of the rules we need to frame internally to make the payment or release the FNF within 2 days. What all I need to do proactively, if we have a set of the process, so that will help us instead of maybe yes, we can raise a concern with the authority, but in case if they have not come up with any sort of the solution, so but we will not have any choice.
Mahesh can't because since this provision is bit sort of tough in terms of implementation. Practically, it's very difficult for many organizations to implement it. So can't they pay some part of the full and final, and after that they can, while paying the part, they can take the acknowledgement from the employee, and later on they can pay the full part once employee is clearing all the dues or whatever the reason are. So what I'm just want to put across here is, yes, this is a tough clause, but somehow if we are not doing so, it's a non-compliance. To overcome this part, it's better to come up with some strong procedure wherein authority or the court should see our intent. What is our intent in holding the payment? So, because normally intent plays a vital role. So participant, my request is, first we need to wait for the final notification of the rules. Once that been notified and they are capturing the same provisions, there is no relaxation. Then I think we need to build up some internal procedure.
Yes, sir. That can be adopted. Okay, now code does not talk about ceiling wage so far. Suppose if we are contributing PF on full basic wages as of now, if any corporate want to reduce the employee PF on ceiling wages, that the PF Act actually mandate. If any corporate want to reduce the employees PF on ceiling wages. So my question is, can corporate reduce PF on ceiling wages rather than an actual basic? Yes, you can go back once maybe your company is not restricted the PF contribution to the ceiling, and you are contributing on the actual basic, which means if person's basic is or basic wages is 30,000, you are contributing on 30,000. So if you want to come back, yes, you can come back, but only thing you have to take the consent. The employee and employer both have to agree for this terms, and once you agree, then we can go back to the 15,000 ceiling, and we have to document this as well with the employee, and there should not be any dispute from the employee. Without the employee knowledge, we cannot reduce the is basic basic wages or PF contribution towards the EPF. One more question, just a minute. There are so many questions.
Yeah, so Mahesh, you can be a little selective about the questions we are answering, considering
No,
the
there is one
person.
more question is very Ankit Bansal has raised. When
Yeah.
HRA is not part of wages, in that case, why should the wages to be considered as mentioned in the slide? What I have mentioned in the slide, I'll show you. Salary component I have mentioned. Here I have mentioned as wage shall be 9,000, which is basic, and DA should be 9,000. Other exclusion portion, I've taken HRA as a excluded portion here. I have not taken. I mentioned is sum of excluded components is 10,000. Otherwise, I am not saying anything here as a wage, which I wanted to clarify here. The exclusion portion, if you refer this slide, here it is mentioned as house accommodation. Similarly,
Mahesh,
when
can
I
you please present your screen? It's not being presented.
not visible, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hope my screen is visible now.
Yes.
Yeah, what I was emphasizing here, the exclusion portion I have mentioned here as house accommodation. Similarly, when I have illustrated here, I have mentioned sum of excluded component here, it is 10,000, which is 433, 10,000. So I have given the bifurcation. The wage should be here 9,000. So otherwise, in the salary component, it is 8,000, but which is not correct as per the code on wages. It should be 9,000. So that is when I have taken the exclusion portion as well as the wage. Both are, it's a combination of both. I'll move on to the next question. There's so many questions. Let me go through it. When HRA, okay, can we get this presentation on mail? Okay, there is an answer which has provided. Do we have the clarity of definition wages? That just a minute. It's jumping actually because of the new questions. Can we get the presentation on mail? Okay, do we have the clarity on definition wages that employer needs to pay in 2 days of exit? Do you have a clarity? It is very clear. 2 days of exit, it's mentioned in the section which I have stated. Section 26 is not section 26. I'm sorry. It says section separation, section 17 under the payment of wages chapter. It very clearly says. Nice session. But HRA, okay, we have gone through. Please share the presentation. What should be the salary credit? So salary credit date is 7th day of every month. It cannot go, or it cannot go beyond 7th. It should be within 7th. So earlier you had like currently you have 2 options. Now they have eliminated one option, which is within 10th for where employee strength is more than 1,000. So that has been removed now. So irrespective of whatever the number of employees you have, so you have to make the payment within 7th, which is on or before of 7th of the month. Sharing the deck with the presentation. Yes, can you please share the list of states, those who have drafted the rules? Yes, definitely we are going to send you. We have the latest list, which all states have been drafted the rules in terms of all 4 codes, which we are going to share. Sir, if 50% of gross is less than the minimum wages of the state, so that we need to pay as a basic salary. Here it is again depends, minimum wages or 50%, it depends. Again, based on the salary component only, we will be able to arrive at what is the quantum of minimum wages should be. If salary, for example, if salary is 20,000, minimum wages itself is as 15,000, then the quantum what you have fixed 15,000 as a basic, the remaining or the 5,000 is going to be, you have an option to consider as a exclusion portion.
Mahesh, there is an important question. Can you scroll? I have seen that question. Somebody has
Yes.
raised a question. 1 minute. Yeah, not that. Somebody has said that seeing the verdict of the Supreme Court, which was in Feb 21, I believe, wherein they have
Kiran,
clarified on the part of PF wages. Okay, so question was that whether it's that status is going to change. Yes, once new law is coming in picture, so the all previous notification or the judgments are sort of null and void. The prevailing notification or the amendment will exist. So once the code will be implemented in that case, whatever mentioned in the code will be applicable, not the previous judgment or any other law. I think that point is very clear otherwise.
thanks, sir. Thanks for your supplement. My question is on wages consideration, performance pay will be considered under the wage. Basically, it is depend on the employee performance. May not. This is an additional remuneration paid by an employer for the set of based on the performance. This cannot be form a part of the fixed gross. So here we have to consider as a fixed gross. What about the returns filing and registers preparation? So that is the procedural part. We have to avoid the number of forms what we have currently, and on implementation of code, it's drastically or significantly the number will get reduced. The procedural part also going to reduce. It's going to reduce the burden of employer.
In regard to maintenance of register or filing of return, either it's annually or periodicity of return, all will be clarified once a rule will be implemented, notified. After that, I think clear picture will come, then we will surely notify to you.
Does LTA fall under the definition of exclusion? Yes, the LTA being paid for the specific reason, for the purpose, the leave travel allowance, yes, that can be exclusion. But you need to have a proper substantiation. It cannot be, or it's just for nomenclature, you cannot have as a LTA. There's one more question which was very, does variable pay for the part of exclusion? No, variable pay, sorry, does variable pay for a part of exclusion? Variable pay, yes, it's going to be a part of exclusion, but variable pay, again, it is a nature. What all variable pay you have? Kind of variable pay, maybe some companies will call it as a basket of allowance, companies will call it as flexi benefit plan. So it depends how you are going to categorize, and for each component, how you have maybe certain allowances which you have extended to them, those can be excluded. But as I mentioned in my previous discussion, we need to have a proper substantiation for the each component. Will the wage definition under ESIC and PF get unified? This may not be because again, this ESIC and PF wage definition, as far as wage, yes, there could be a similarity, but as I mentioned, now the ESIC being contributed on gross, wherein if you could refer the definition, it is 50%. So PF and ESIC, there are chances that the definition can be the same, but again, we will have to see here ceiling we have. Even under ESIC, we have 21,000, under PF 15,000. If we get some clarity on this too, definitely we could able to arrive at this. What could be the definition of ESIC and for PF? Otherwise, as per the code on wages, is as good as wage. Overtime eligibility, the question is not clear.
Mahesh, I just want to clarify it. As far as wage definition is concerned, it's one only. Yes, there is because there are two ceiling. One is for PF, other is for ESI at the moment. So there are chances of variation in that, right, Mahesh?
Yes. There
Otherwise,
could be
from the term wages perspective, it is one only.
One only, as good as the PF and the ESIC, as good as the wage is same. That's the reason I have emphasized the quantum of ESIC can come down, the quantum of PF can go up. because of the wage, which if I consider my wage as 50%, then I may land up in paying ESIC on the 50% of wage and PF as well. So the definition going to be same, but however, the ceiling part alone, we have to wait for it.
Just hold here. Will code impact the existing 7A, 7B inquiry in ETF? Same way, will other act like bonus, ESA, GST? I would like to clarify here. Basically, 7A, 7B is for the perspective of non-contribution. So if and payment of bonus and GST act is altogether it's a different benefit to the employee. Here employee is not contributing anything and employer is paying it. So 7A, 7B is there in the current act, and same provision, same kind of provision are there in the existing new code. For ESI, it's 45A and 45B, 45C, and same provision are there in the code, Social Security Code, right, Mahesh?
Yes, sir. It comes under the Social Security Code.
Yeah.
Only bonus part which will come under the code on wages, but otherwise ESIC and PF it's going to be.
But provision of 7A, 7B, 45A or 45B, 45C, those kind of provisions are not there in payment of gratuity or the payment of bonus act, and further are not available in the current code as well.
Yes, sir. Now there are so many questions floating. How about overtime, which we have gone through it? Is we are paying production incentives, particularly month. So production incentives are, again, it is a variable in nature and being paid to certain employee for their performance, like production. So this cannot be in the exclusion portion, but this is going to be a part of additional remuneration. His performance bonus is a part of exclusion, but many of other employees might come under the SAC to wage definition. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, if wage quantum comes down, definitely the number of employees will come under the ambit of ESIC. At this point of time, is there any provision required in books of accounts? Books of accounts, as of now, there is no provision. It's completely related to the financial aspects. What would be the wage ceiling for eligibility for bonus and wage ceiling for calculation of bonus in new coming code? As I mentioned, they have not given, as of now, they have stated 20 is the eligible. You should, the establishment should have 20 and more, and the ceiling is 21,000. But again, they have given the empowerment to change the ceiling and also ceiling to the respective state. So in case if state is coming up with that, I have increased my ceiling to 30,000, then the people who's as per the definition of payment of bonus, all employees who's earning the basic NDA or the as per the wage definition of bonus, you will come under the ambit of 30,000. So you will be covering more. Rishi, did we miss any question? Sir, we have anything which is more important? Otherwise,
yeah, Mahesh, I request you to reply to Rahul's question. Rahul, what would be the wage ceiling of eligibility for bonus and wage ceiling for calculation of bonus in new coming code?
That I have clarified, sir, just now. What would be the wage ceiling eligibility? Same thing I have clarified now.
Mahesh, have you taken a look at both chat and Q&A together? I believe you have, right?
Yeah, Q&A also have to take.
Yeah, Rishi, actually, even there is some confusion.
Yeah, which I have answered.
Yeah. So no problem. I think we can take the last two questions considering the paucity of time. And perhaps we can answer some of the questions. To anyone whose question is not answered, feel free to write to us. I'll be putting an email address there. Feel free to write to us there, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours with an answer, the best answer we can.
Yeah. Here question and answers and the chat also, many questions have been repeated, which we have already answered. Payment of gratuity is an exclusion as per the code, but as per judgment, gratuity is now a part of payment of wages, which attracts the liability for PA. Payment of gratuity. Payment of gratuity, again, we have to look at it as a separate act, and it's cannot be a part of your gross remuneration. There is a similar provision in payment of wages that F&F to be clear in 2 days. In spite of such provision, authorities are not too heavy on this as they understand the practical issues. Now, this is a procedural part. If authorities are not enforcing, it doesn't mean that we can take it lightly. We have to adhere to the provision. Otherwise, it's going to be non-complied in terms of compliance, like as far as payment of wages. We heard about 4 days week and working hours will be same in a week. Can you please brief about this? I think Rishi, there are many questions. I think we have answered. As you rightly mentioned, Rishi, if there are any specific questions, yes, we have already provided our email IDs where they can
exactly
send questions, and we are happy to answer for those questions.
Yeah, so we'll also be sharing the document as mentioned a couple of times during the Q&A. And after that too, if you have some questions, we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. But for now, I think we've had a highly engaging session. We've seen a high amount of participants as well. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Rajiv, for putting this up together for the team. And I think once the document is out, everyone here will really appreciate the kind of effort we and the investment we make in we at Team Lease Compliance make in putting this together. So I think we've had, this is just the second of our many knowledge sessions to come, and next time we are going to come up with a panel discussion wherein we'll have experts from the industry also give their views on what exactly is going on with respect to labor codes and also labor law in general. Maybe we'll have some expert from industrial law compliance as well. So that's it from everyone here at Team Lease Compliance. Thank you, Mahesh, and thank you, Rajiv.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks,
Rishi. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone
thanks,
for taking the
Rishi,
time out
once again.
And
Bye.
Being present here to allow Team Lease Compliance to present this. Thank you everyone, and have a good day.